Welcome to ET English, the unique English language learning feature of Education Times. This recording is brought to you by Panthea Gunathilaka, the founder of Cleon, Academy for Speech, Drama and Leadership. The Education Times comes to you every week with the Sunday Times, a leading publication of Vijaya Newspapers Limited. ET English introduces a unique way of learning English through stories. It has a short novel and also a picture story, both of which are being published in episodes every week. All the lessons and activities that are given in the feature are from these two stories. Many English scholars accept that when you learn a language through stories, you remember them better. Further, the picture story will complement this by adding the visual component as well, where it will help the readers create vivid images in their minds, helping them remember those dialogues and the words through these incidents. Now we're going to bring the audio version of this feature, where you can listen to the stories and the lessons. First the picture story, secondly the novel, and finally the lessons. Both the stories in this feature are based on stories from the short story book by Mr. Asghar Hussain and published by Vijayapa Publications. To get the best out of this feature, we suggest that you get a copy of the Education Times and also a dictionary. Also, it will help if you read the feature once or twice on your own. At the same time, try to get the correct pronunciation by listening to audio attentively and repeatedly and trying to read it after every dialogue, emulating the voices that you hear. We shall start now. Let's listen to the picture story. Part 6. And All Because of a Fag. Based on a story by Asghar Hussain. Illustrations by Anton B. Pereira. Growing with confidence, Ravi puffed in the last gasp from his ciggy and blew out a spray of smoke on the hefty man's face. The fellow retorted with a fierce glare, and Ravi became nervous. Suddenly, he remembered a news item about the underworld king, Nondi Chamal. He took his mobile and pretended to dial a number once again.
Hello, Chamalaya. Is everything okay? Yes, I got the job done. Nothing much to be worried. See to the Maria Kade deal soon. I'll be there next week.
These words ricocheted and exploded, causing chaos in the Rasadiva Batkade.
You dirty mutt!
Ravi was shocked and speechless.
Get him!
Oh, good! No!
The big fellow pulled the chair aside, raised his sarong, held out a sharp knife and pointed it at Ravi menacingly.
You rascal!
Let's begin with the short story, A Good Medical Boy, taken from The Mirror of Paradise by Asghar Hussain. When he paused for a while, Mr. Herath informed us that he had hepatitis. Then, without thinking, my friend asked, "Ah, so you take insulin, uncle?" Mr. Herath's jaw fell. "Why should I take insulin?" he asked. "It is people with diabetes who take insulin. I told you I had hepatitis." "Ah, yes, I forgot," said Rajpal, vainly trying to appear unruffled. A long and awkward silence followed. I was now getting worried. It was true that my friend was a good student, but his knowledge was largely confined to political theory. If you asked him, he could talk at length from Plato to Chomsky. Sadly, his focus on that field alone meant he suffered from a frightful ignorance of other things. Furthermore, as he once boasted, his family members rarely fell ill. This meant he would know little about medical matters. Anyway, it was not long before Mrs. Herath announced that her daughter was a good pianist. She claimed the girl could play Mozart as well as some modern pieces. "Priyanka has also composed some short pieces of her own," she said proudly. She then turned to the girl and told her, "Dua, why don't you give us a performance?" The girl got up and walked gracefully towards the grand piano. However, from that moment, her fingers descended on the keys. We were treated to some of the most appalling music ever produced. She certainly had an aptitude for making the piano wail. Normally, I'm not critical when it comes to music, but this was more than my ears could bear. This was a lesson in dissonance. A glance at Rajpal confirmed my view, for the man had leant back against the couch and had an agitated look. I felt further vindicated when the dog tied up in the backyard began to howl. Our host didn't notice any of these things. They listened with rapture, and their heads swayed to and fro. They were so profoundly affected that I felt sorry for them. This was a performance guaranteed to discourage any prospective husband. Anyway, when Priyanka finished and made a bow, we were so relieved that we clapped enthusiastically. "Quite moving, wasn't it?" Mrs. Herath asked, and we nodded. Let's start with the activities. In today's lesson, we have 5 activities. Activity number 1. You have to read the text and underline the appropriate answer given. Question number 1. Mr. Herath informed the guest that he had hepatitis. Number 2. In the short story, A Good Medical Boy, my friend in sentence number 2 refers to Rajpal. Question number 3. If you asked him, he could talk at length from Plato to Chomsky. In this sentence from the text, he refers to Rajpal. Moving on to question number 4. Priyanka has also composed some short pieces of her own. This was said by Mrs. Herath. Number 5. When Priyanka finished her performance, Mrs. Herath wanted the guest to confirm it was moving. Activity number 2. This is where you have to learn words and phrases used in different contexts in this activity, making reference to the text. For further reading, you can refer a good dictionary and expand further on the different shades of meaning of words. The first one. Mr. Herath informed us that he had hepatitis. He informed means told, stated or let us know, but in he is well-informed person, informed means knowledgeable, well-versed, conversant or learned. The second one, in Rajpal's knowledge, was largely confined to political theory. Confined means limited, restricted or curbed, but in she was confined to bed with flu. Here confined means had to stay, and in to keep the dog confined in a particular cage. Confined means to keep the animal in a closed place. The third one, in Rajpal could talk at length from Plato to Chomsky. At length means extensively, lengthily, broadly or in full. But in at length we arrived at our destination. Here, at length means after some time, eventually, or in the end. Fourth one, in Priyanka has also composed some short pieces of her own. Here composed means created, written, made, produced, prepared, or put together. But in the sentence, Priyanka is a well-composed girl. Composed here means calm, collected, unruffled, serene, and poised. The fifth one, in I'm not critical when it comes to music. Critical means inclined to find fault or to judge with severity, judgmental, disapproving, and censorious, but in the patient is in a critical condition. Here critical gives the meaning of dangerous, serious, and life-threatening. Considering activity 3, it is where you have two columns, column A and column B, and after reading the two stories, you have to match words in column A with the corresponding similar word in column B. Column A contains the words aptitude, wail, dissonance, rapture, unruffled, awkward, frightful, modern, appalling, agitated, vindicated, guaranteed, prospective, moving, retorted, ricocheted, menacingly, unexpectedly, confidence, and worried. The corresponding words in column B, which should be matched with, are ability, new, horrendous, annoyed, justified, assured, potential, touching, scream, discord, ecstasy, unmoved, uncomfortable, terrible, troubled, assurance, suddenly, threateningly, rebounded, and responded. Activity 4 contains the usual special language expressions with its possible applications. The first one, he paused for a while, can be used as he was silent for some time. Next we have a long and awkward silence followed, which means there was a stroopy pin drop silence. The next language expression, he suffered from a frightful ignorance of, which can be used as he suffered from horrible illiteracy. Next, her fingers descended on the keys. Your application could be she started playing the piano. I felt further vindicated. You can say I felt more justified. The next expression, any prospective husband, which can be used as any potential, future, soon-to-be spouse. Next, we clapped enthusiastically. Means, in your words you could say, we applauded eagerly, excitedly. The next one, they were so profoundly affected, which can be used as they were so intensely, greatly influenced. Ravi with growing confidence could be used as Ravi mounting with self-assurance. The next one, the fellow retorted with a fierce glare. Here, in other words, you could say the guy or chap countered or opposed with a violent burst. The next, Ravi became nervous. In simple words, you can apply as Ravi became panicky or worried. The next one, these words ricocheted and exploded, which you can use as these words echoed and blasted. The last language expression for today, Ravi was shocked and speechless. In simple words, you can say Ravi was stunned and flabbergasted. The last and the fifth activity is grammar focus, and today's grammar focus is on adverbs. An adverb is a word that modifies a verb or another adverb. Most adverbs generally end in ly. There are 9 such adverbs in the 2 stories. Read carefully and find them. You can also find answers to last week's lesson given in today's lesson. That's the end of the activity time. Dear listeners, thank you very much for taking the time to listen to our recordings. You're welcome to give us your feedback and suggestions on the phone numbers and the email address given in the ET English feature in the Education Time section. We meet again next week. The recording was brought to you by Panthea Gunathilaka, the founder of Cleon Academy for Speech, Drama and Leadership. Until then, goodbye and happy learning.